Hello, this is block 12 of the Sixpenny Memories Sew Along. So what you're going to need is a 3.5 inch square for the centre. For these triangles here, if you cut yourself two 3-inch squares and cut them in half on the diagonal. Your rectangles are 2 5/8 of an inch by 4 3/4, and you're going to need 4 of those. Your large corner triangles are two 4-inch squares cut in half on the diagonal. And the small triangles are a 4 1/4 inch square cut in half on the diagonal and then cut in half again, so it'll yield 4 triangles. The first thing you're going to do, it's a bit of a Blue Peter here, is we are going to take the rectangles and you're going to take one of your large triangles. These are the 4-inch squares cut in half on the diagonal, and you're going to find the centre of the triangle and you're going to sew it along like that. And you're going to do that with all 4 rectangles. Okay, once you've done that on 2 of the rectangles, you're going to take 2 of your smaller triangles. So this was the 4 1/4 inch square that was cut in half on in both directions on the diagonal. And you're going to sew these down both sides so that they actually go over that previously sewn triangle, and then press that. So you'll have 2 that look like that and 2 that look like this. With the centre square, what you're going to do is you are going to firstly sew the triangles to the top and bottom of the centre square, and then you're going to sew the other 2 on the other side, so it's a bit like a square in a square block at this stage, and then we're going to press those open like that. And then the next bit is, if you get one of these triangles that doesn't have the corner, one of the rectangles that doesn't have the corners on, and place that either side of, so it's on opposite sides of that centre square. So we're going to pop one on that side, and then we'll pop one on the other side, like that. So can you see that's on there? 1, 2. And then we're going to sew down both these sides. So I'll just take you over to the sewing machine for this bit, because this is the final construction. The other bits were very straightforward to do. So we'll just use a 1/4 inch seam allowance throughout. And the stitch length on my Brother machine is a 2.5. On your Janome machine might be a 2. Just a standard stitch length. Needle wise, I'm using, I'm actually got a quilting needle in here, a 75 quilting needle, but a universal needle would be absolutely fine. I'm just going to flip that out of the way so it doesn't sew. So yes, you could use either. I tend to use a quilting needle a lot because it means I don't have to change the needle when I actually go on to quilting, because it's a sharper needle. But remember that your needles last between 5 to 6 hours of sewing time. And then it really makes an enormous difference if you do change your needle. So I'm going to bring you back to the pressing surface, and we're going to remove those pins, and we are going to set the seam like we normally do and press. So set that seam there and press. Set the seam here and press. Oh, I haven't quite caught that. I've just missed that last bit there. Can you see I've just not quite caught it there? Just flipped under it has. So I'm just going to take that back to the sewing machine and just finish stitching that properly. If you make a mistake like that, just it's worth unpicking it, because otherwise it just doesn't give you a good look at the end. Okay, that's better. So now I've got the centre done. Just give that a quick press. That's lovely. So what I'm going to do now is the other 2 corners that we had, we're going to pop one there, and this one we're going to pop on this side here. Now at this stage here, can you see, we're going to find the centre of this rectangle. And when you find the centre of the rectangle, there is the centre point of your block there. We're going to make sure that that's in the centre. That's the first job. And this is the first time we've had to match seams. So what we'll do is we'll pop that seam onto there, and we'll make sure that one seam goes one way and one seam goes the other, so it lies nice and flat. So I'll pop a pin in there like that. So I'm happy with that. And do the same on this side. We want one seam to go one way and one seam to go the other, and we'll pop a pin in there. Now make sure that your triangles at the end go all the way, and I just tend to pop a pin in. We don't want it flipping like it just has done. We'll cross there, and we're going to do exactly the same for the other side, and you can pin it as long as you just make sure that you don't catch any of your bits in as you're sewing. So find the center, pop that onto there like that, and I'm using the Murano glass-headed pins from Prim. Make sure your seams are together and your seam allowances are going in different directions. So that one's happy there. Remember to just make sure that your triangle is sitting nice and straight and it goes all the way to the end, because we do want to sew off the end there. And then we'll just do this seam quickly. So if you were making multiple blocks, then you obviously could just chain piece all of the elements as you were going. And pop that one across to there, and just make sure you've got a pin. And these are the final two seams to be sewn. And what we're going to do now is we're going to sew all the way down this side here, and then we'll sew the other side. I'm just moving this out of the way so I don't get anything caught. So we'll lower that. Just take your time. Now I've got that pin at a bit of an angle, so I'm just going to take that out now. Some people don't like pinning. When you approach a pin, just take your time. You can pop the pin out if you're confident. Let's keep that out of the way there. You can sew over the pins, but I would just slow the machine down, and this is where, you know, good quality pins are worth having. I'm not saying that you'll never break a needle. The long pins, the flower head pins, are much finer than these Murano glass-headed pins, and so you know, can easily sew over those ones. So there's one seam. Just take your time sewing this stage, and then we'll sew the other side. Just flip that one out of the way again, pop it down, make sure we've got everything lying flat, and that's just secured that, so I can take that pin out there now. And then we'll whiz down here, straight away down, like that. And when you get to the end, make sure that you continue to sew right off the end. A lot of people go off at a slight angle at that last bit. You need to make sure you sew right at the end and keep the stitching straight. So now remove the pins, and we'll take you back to the pressing mat. And once again, you're going to press, set the seam, and then flip it open like that. Give that a nice press. The wool pressing mats do make an enormous difference. Just press the seam. Let's caught a little triangle there before, and then open that out there like that. And there you have, once I get rid of some of these threads, a 9-inch block. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk to you about is the fact that mathematically, as you remember, I told you this should only be 3 7/8 of an inch. So I'll just need to trim this off, this block off, and all I'll do is measure 1/4 of an inch from those points there. Can you see? Measure 1/4 of an inch from the points. Get this line nice and flat, and then I'll just trim off the excess. If you're not confident, you could actually draw yourself a line there first before you trimmed it off. But I think you'll find that this is a really lovely little block. And now I've got 2 of them made, I'm just going to show you how they look together, because what happens is you get this other design coming through. So look at that. Doesn't that look fabulous? So I hope you've enjoyed this block. It's block 12. If you want to see the other blocks, they are all on YouTube. The Sew Along is live on Facebook on a Saturday morning. If you need any of the products that I have used, then please visit www.six, which is six-penny.com, and sign up to the newsletter, and you'll get 15% off. So thank you very much.